The remake of Silent Hill 2 was released on October 7th, 2024. It is based on the original 2001 game with the same name. The original has been a horror gaming darling ever since it released, and is generally claimed to be the best Silent Hill game, and is often mentioned as one of the greater games in the horror genre. But is the remake worth playing? Let's talk about the gameplay, the story, and more, and hopefully answer if it's worth your time. Starting with the basics, it took me 22 hours to finish my first playthrough. I did record it, and you can find my full Let's Play here on the channel. And while the game generally ran alright, I did have some performance issues, which mostly included lagging. And while some of it is performance issues with the game, some of it is also the game simply not liking my recording software. Either way, outside of the occasional lag, the game ran smooth without any issues. The remake follows the story of the original with some small changes here and there, but overall the main narrative stays the same. And if you played the original, you will find yourself visiting familiar places and meeting the same people. But it's not all the same. The developer have taken some things and moved them around. You will meet some characters in different places from the original. Some puzzles have been changed or replaced, while others remain the same. And to my surprise, entire building layouts have been changed, which means you can't rely on your memory of the original to navigate, while also using the added hardware space to have much more detailed and interesting places. After all, the game is no longer limited by the fact that it had to come out on a disc for the PlayStation 2. There are even major sequences which have been completely reworked, and definitely for the better. As I went into the game, I naturally tried relying on my memory of the original, but I quickly learned that it was not going to help me, and I was happy to encounter all the updates to the narrative and locations. The game is close enough to the original to feel respectful, and changed enough to feel worthy of being called a remake. These updates feel carefully made by people who genuinely care about the original game. And in all cases, I found people being moved around or the new layouts of places to actually enhance the experience. Familiar characters have been brought up to modern graphics. I feel the upgrades are quite faithful. I especially like James, as he somehow manages to look just like he did in my memories. The cast of voice actors are excellent, with James being absolutely outstanding. It feels almost impossible not to like him, and the other voice actors manage to bring performances that bring feeling of pity, fear, interest, or major discomfort as I interacted with their characters. I was worried I would not like the voices as I went into the game, but I honestly love them. Now, like in the original, you start the game by picking your difficulty for combat and difficulty for puzzles. I went with hard puzzles and normal combat, and was generally pretty pleased with my experience. The puzzles hit just the right level of challenging without being too hard, and I was happy to see the variety of puzzles in the game. It actually threw me for a loop that not all of the puzzles were super hard, causing me to overcomplicate them and leading me to struggle to find the answer because the answer was just quite simple and right in front of me. With other puzzles, I had to sit back and actually think for a while as I tried to figure out what the world and the puzzle wanted me to do. And if you're not much for puzzles, then the normal and easy difficulties are there to adjust to your preferred experience. Because puzzles should be fun, not frustrating. The combat has been reworked for the remake. James still gets a melee weapon and some guns to take down enemies with, but these enemies feel faster and more aggressive. You can dodge various attacks, and you will have to try to quickly master that dodge button, because on normal difficulty, the enemies really pack a punch if they manage to grab onto you. There are several different enemy types that are introduced throughout the game. Each one has their own attack pattern and unique mechanics, meaning you have to find the best way to handle them while trying to save ammo and health items. The game actually does pretty good with introducing the enemy types one at a time, giving you a chance to figure out how they work, only to then start mixing and matching enemies in the later areas. The combat challenge ramps up pretty gradually, and I found it satisfying to find myself getting more confident against some enemies, while also learning that some enemies types are just bad to encounter and should be handled immediately with a high caliber round. The game does bring back the boss fights from the original. Some are the same while others are completely changed, though in my opinion mostly for the better. I went into each boss fight feeling pretty excited and scared and had great fun with it. Now, like the original, the remake has multiple endings. Your first playthrough will give you one of 3 possible endings from the original, but the New Game Plus does not only add the other 3 endings from the original, but also 2 brand new endings unique to the remake. The only thing not returning from the original is the Born from a Wish DLC, which focuses on Maria. So far I have heard nothing about the DLC coming to the game, but I really hope it will be released sometime down the road, simply because I actually enjoy that DLC. But is the Silent Hill 2 remake worth playing? For me, yes. Yes it is. If you're a horror fan, this is a great game to play. It's a good example of a great remake, and I honestly hope the same team will be allowed to remake Silent Hill 1, 3 and 4, because they really outdid themselves with this one. But that is just my opinion. What do you think? Is the remake worth playing for you? Let's talk about it down in the comments. And while you're down there, make sure to do the good YouTube stuff. Subscribe, ring the bell, sacrifice the like button to the algorithmic overlords. And in the end, all I wanna say is takk fyrir að horfa og eigðu yndislegan dag.